What's up, bros? There's no need for a long intro, so I'm just gonna hop right into it. My name's Ian. This is Road to Advanced, and I'm trying to get as big and as strong the best way I know how. Horsing, heavy weights, and just bringing the intensity. I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. Anyways, I'm gonna go over my goals real quick. I want to be 190 lean, around 8 to 12% body fat. I'm like 195, floating around 20 to 25% body fat. I would estimate. And the numbers I want to hit are 315 for 5 squat, 275 for 5 bench, 185 for 5 overhead press, and a 365 for 5 stiff leg deadlift. And you might be wondering, why do you have hypertrophy and strength goals? Why? Because I want to do both, dude. I don't want to just hop from machine to machine, squeezing the muscle, slowing down the tempo, Mike Israel style. That shit is not fun to me. I want to be horsing around, heavy weights, getting stronger than last time, just giving it all I've got. Because that is what motivates me to go to the gym. And as long as I'm motivated, that's pretty much all that matters. And I know that those aren't necessarily advanced for a strength athlete, but strength isn't necessarily my goals here. So take a bench press, for example. I'm not necessarily using the form that is going to make me generate the most power. So you take a power lifter as an example. They're probably going to arch their back a lot, use a really, really exaggerated wide grip just to make the lift as easy as possible. But I'm just kind of doing the opposite and instead making my muscles work as hard as possible. So I'm getting more out of less weight, but I'm not really worried about all that right now. I'm just trying to lift heavy weight in a way that builds muscle as best as possible. That's what I'm doing right now because I want to get big, but I also want to get strong. So I gotta pick something kind of between the two. That's why I have stiff leg deadlifts on here instead of just a regular deadlift, because hitting a 365 deadlift, I could probably hit that in 3 months if I really wanted to. Probably less than that, but I digress. Anyways, but yeah, I don't really care about the 1 rep max numbers because my main goal isn't just getting the biggest numbers possible. If however much that I lift now was heavyweight to me, then I would be happy lifting it. But it's not. I know I can do better, basically. So I'm going to do better. The reason why I'm not solely training for hypertrophy is because I don't want to just have my gym sessions be moving from machine to machine, moving, really lightweight, time under tension, squeezing the muscle. I know that's all really, really good for hypertrophy, but I just don't find it enjoyable. I just don't want to train that way. Now, there is a time and place for it. You'll see me doing certain movements like, I don't know, a preacher curl, for example. That's a lengthened biased movement. A lengthened biased movement, so it's optimal. Yeah. Yeah. So those movements are just going to damage the muscle more, being that your muscle has to exert more power while it's stretched, which means it's just easier to damage the muscle and induce hypertrophy, thus just making you bigger. So there is a time and place for hypertrophy training in my program. Okay, let's move on. I've talked about hypertrophy and horsing heavy weights for far too long. Let's move on to the actual mechanics of the program and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So first off, the 4 main movements are being linear periodized, if I got that right, which basically means it follows kind of a 12-week, 3-month block where each month is kind of blocked out as working capacity, then hypertrophy, and then strength, where it goes to really high volume and then it kind of tapers down. So you get really high reps and lightweight at the very start of the program, and then it slowly tapers down into heavier weights and less volume. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds in terms of hypertrophy and strength. You're building up a lot of skill at the very start of the program when you're just repping it out lightweight. It really helps you lock in your form, lock in your technique. So later down the line in the program, your form's already locked in and you're hitting those heavy weights with a really nice form. I mean, guess what happens? You're gonna fucking grow. I mean, how else? I don't know how else to explain it. So I'm just gonna keep moving on. With the rest of my program, I kind of have hypertrophy in mind. And I try to choose movements and exercises that match that. So for one portion of my program, I'm pretty much just focused on strength, moving big weights. But the rest of it, like the accessories, I don't like to call them accessories because, I mean, they matter just as much as your quote unquote main lift. Like if you're doing a bench press, you want bigger chest, you want a bigger tricep. You're going to bring the same energy to a bicep curl, or at least you should, if you want bigger biceps. I mean, it sounds simple, but I hear, oh, I can't grow my biceps. Why aren't my calves growing? Because you're not putting in the same amount of effort as you are in that than something else. I mean, I had this problem for a long time and I just didn't understand it. It's a smaller muscle. I might not have to try as hard. I never really thought that, but I guess it was just something subconscious in my head that I never really realized. But actually taking accountability and trying to do better every single day made me realize that. Just because if you see that something's not progressing and you think you're working as hard as possible towards that goal and it's just not moving, chances are you're doing something wrong. And once I really took a look at what I was doing and I started tracking everything I could about certain parts of my training, it just smacked me on the head. I just realized it. My biceps aren't growing because I'm not taking the sets to actual failure. I'm just doing the same thing week to week. Oh, well, that was, I think that was 1 or 2 more than last time. And you do that week after week, month after month, and you just don't progress and you don't realize it until 6 months to a year passes and you're like, wait a minute. I've been lifting the same amount of weight. My arms are still the same size after this whole time. What am I doing wrong? And what's so painful about this whole situation is just how obvious it is in hindsight. Like, obviously, if you go in the gym and do the same exact thing week to week, maybe like progress for like 3 weeks in a row, and then you get sick and then you come back and then you just end up doing the same thing over and over again. And you're like, oh, I have to take a week off because of this. Whatever, right? We've all been there. But obviously, you're not going to grow following that. But what's great about this situation is it's really easy to fix. And the solution to that is, I don't know, logging your stuff. I mean, following your program, tracking your macros, making sure you sleep right, just getting all of your outside of the gym variables in a row, making sure you're all good, and then you'll be straight. You'll start growing. Crazy, right? Anyways, I'm about to wrap this up. You can watch along for the ride or Hell, join me if you want. I'll see you next week.